Zoom link that Judge Newcomb sent out. It's on the, he put it on the agenda. So if you open the attachment he sent out on the agenda, it's at the top of that.
I got you. I'll go find it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, what's that? Oh,
Okay, so RJ is going to be joining us in a second too.
Okay.
always sounds very little.
So we're live. You can start whenever you're ready.
All right. Thanks, Corky. I'll go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Crittenden County Project Development Board for August the 1st to order. And I want to thank everyone for joining. Those of us that are virtual and those of us in person. First item of business is to call the roll, and I'll ask our secretary, Brittany, to do that.
Judge Newcomb,
Here.
Judge Rogers.
She'll give us an emoji. She'll give us an emoji here in a minute.
Miss Melissa Quill, Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Ms. Rebecca Johnson,
Here.
Judge Leonard. You good? I
See him.
I see his head.
He's okay. There's this. He raised his hand.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Okay, we do have a quorum, so first.
How about I just put you on? I think they're just talking to me in the meeting. Hang on.
Corky, you might want to mute.
All right. What's that? Oh, I might have messed up.
Just exit out.
Okay.
Just hit that. No, not that one. Yeah, that one.
All right. First item of business on the agenda is to review the minutes from our previous meeting of July 13th. And if everyone's had a chance to look through those, entertain a motion regarding the minutes.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the
All right.
July 13th meeting.
Got a motion by Melissa to approve the July 13th minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Duval. Any questions, comments, or need for corrections, amendments? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Next item of business is to approve the pay request from the abatement assessor. And that was an invoice totaling $3,960, which was the agreed upon contractual amount. So do I have a motion to approve payment of the $3,960 invoice from the band's funds that are available?
I'll move that.
All right, motion by Mr. Duval, second by Melissa. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, Judge Rogers raised her hand. So, all right, motion carries. Next item is a bid notice update, and Corky or Danny or Mark, I guess either one of you have anything to add from what we learned at our last meeting?
I can go over one scenario. So I know we're working on being able to do the abatement work and whatnot. So there was coordination language going to be included into the bid documents by Sherman Carter Barnhart for when they do the demolition, so that the abatement person can get all the abatement work done. So Judge Newcomb, you remember, did we talk about as far as what all has to be abated as far as there's asbestos found in the roof?
Yeah, we talked about the roof and some pipe wrapping.
Yeah, so just one thing is Danny and I were talking about this earlier today. So one scenario that can come up is if if we do the abatement work prior to the demolition, at that point in time, of course, the building would be vacated. And if they have to abate the roof and whatnot, so technically at that point, the building would be exposed because we'd end up having the removed from the building. So at that point, we go in and then bid out the building. If we figure out we're over budget and couldn't basically bond the project, we may have to drop back and just do the demolition only until we could seek additional funding during the session. If that's just one potential scenario we had discussed today, that we won't know what will happen
And-
until we.
Our concern with that, I'll just add to that, our concern with that is that, we have to, it's kind of like puzzle pieces. We have to get the abatement done first. And, part of that is bidding out the total project so that we can coordinate getting that done. Worst case scenario, we can't get, if we're above, our use allowance with that is that, we still want to get the abatement work done, that we may have to separate that demo package out just so that that coordination can take place and we can get the building raised.
Okay.
Also, too, RJ, you're on here. Can you hear me? We just had some stuff done. Are the race down a little bit?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you, Mark. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Since I think the last run that we made for this project that I shared with the group was about July the 12th. Rates are down slightly from there. So we're still hovering maybe a little over 20 million in total funding with the current use allowance.
So just so we know that we haven't seen an increase in rates,
All right.
That's
which is good.
So if that abatement process does have to be separated out from the actual demo bid, and obviously the abatement has to be done prior to complete demo. So you take the roof off, you take the other asbestos elements out of the building, and then you wait how long before actual demo? And the reason I ask, I'm concerned about an open building in the middle of town square that's gonna start getting bats and coons and everything else housing in there.
Right. So what would happen is we would have to get somebody under contract to do the abatement work potentially. And then, well, Danny, that poses another scenario there where if we had the demo included the regular GC job.
Yeah, I think at that point, if we, realize that, we're outside of our allotted budget, I think we're breaking that demo portion out of the GC total contract and doing that individually as a separate, basically bid package. Because I fully agree with you, Judge Newcomb, on that, is that, the last thing we want to do is leave an exposed building, sitting there for months. So,
Yeah,
and
there
part
will
of
be.
that would be, kind of site prep work as well, because, we're opening up the basement, and all of that. So we would want to make sure that, we're infilling that, to make it a safe site.
Still a good question, but can't you not
So-
go ahead and bid it out and see?
So that would be a totally separate funding request at that point then?
Well, it would be, we would have to look at our bonds or our bands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And see if we would need to have additional funds, I guess appropriated, or RJ, I'm missing the word here. I guess restructure our bands.
right. We could reissue the bands, Danny. I think is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And increase the amount.
Okay, all right, I got you.
So it wouldn't be the complete bond sale, which is establishes our use allowance. So this would just be, basically adding on to the band costs that we have already. So
Okay.
Yeah, so what happened, Judge Newcomb in Bath County is they came in, the bids were high on that. So what happened is Sherman Carter Barnhart, they basically backed the demo portion out of that, and then they basically rebid just the demo work separate. So that would be kind of a scenario if we bid it out GC and we figured out it came in way over budget. We may be able to back that out. It could be something where we may have to rebid it again if we felt like, but maybe we only had one bid and we would probably have to try to solicit some more people if that was a case. It just depends on the scenario on what we get as far as bids, whether it's four or five general contractors bid, or maybe we had lack of participation in the bids, something we'd have to take into consider depending on what happens. So a few different scenarios depending on what happens with that. Does that make sense?
I think so. Bottom line is everything will still be planned to go out to bid, and then depending on how that comes back in, will determine how you proceed with the abatement and demo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just think, whenever you started talking about removing the roof and then doing the demo separately, it became a vision of perhaps a building sitting there for a few months before one, after one took place and before another.
Yeah, potentially would. So let's say, worst case scenario, let's say we had 6 bids and they came in where we're over budget. We couldn't proceed forward with the construction. So then at that point, of course we would go back. Jeff and them would have to separate that back out, and then we'd have to bid out the demolition work. So you got probably a couple of months realistically in that. If you have 3 or 4 weeks to get the demo in, then we'd have to get them under contract. So, if that scenario does happen, there is a few steps just to get that done. So.
Yeah.
It could be a scenario, Danny. I would think we could possibly get an abatement person maybe under contract and have that set up and not have them proceed with work until we had our GC bid number in. I got you on mute still. We could probably possibly handle it that way to try to mitigate that.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we definitely charge forward with trying to get the demo or the abatement work bid out, and then have that coordination, basically fall in line with the rest of the project bidding out.
With the demo, would not some of the site work have to occur because of having a basement, filling the basement in, getting basically a level spot, safe spot?
I think you would if there's a lag between when the demo is completed and when we start the rest of the project. I think you would have to look at, filling some of that basement. But what we would definitely want them to go ahead and take out, all the foundation and everything.
Okay.
Or the other third option, Danny, is if we decided to wait. So on one scenario on there, so in Jessamine County, they didn't have a basement, and they built a few buildings. So there we basically just took the buildings down and left the foundation in place, since they're like, slab type buildings. And so that way, since at the time it was going to be a GC job, they didn't want to have the general contractor, basically, if there's a problem with the compaction of the dirt where those buildings were, they wanted to leave the responsibility solely to whoever built the building. So we decided not to remove those. So that was one consideration that we have with Jessamine County. So that's something we probably have to discuss with Sherman Carter Barnhart if we get to that point.
I think, on this facility, the footprint of the new facility is gonna basically be completely, covering what is existing there now. So we would definitely, some of that compaction work and everything would need to fall on the project GC at that point.
So that complicates it too. If we go that route.
Anybody have any other questions regarding the bid notice updates? All right. I was just sending Chris Jones the link again. He was having some problems, so.
Okay.
I just now noticed he hadn't joined, so. Next item of business was county office update. I know everyone was curious before when it looked like we might move out. We had another construction progress meeting today, and supposedly August 8th, they're going to do a final MEP punch list, architectural punch list, and civil punch list. So we're getting really close. We'd already been working off of a punch list on the renovated part of the building, which was the majority of the facility. So this next punch list would primarily be for the addition that was added to the building. So it shouldn't be near as, near as complex as what the initial punch list was. So they're looking at hopefully being ready to turn that over to us before the end of the month. We did start moving some furniture in Friday. Even though we don't have an occupancy certificate at this time, the state inspector did say we could start moving in some furnishings. So we've got a little bit of a start, but at least it looks like we're on track, hopefully, to be out there toward the end of this month, I hope.
Okay.
Is that a fair statement, Chris?
I would hope so.
I apologize, Chris. I didn't see your request for that link again until just a minute ago when I noticed you weren't here.
No problem. The link I had went to the July meeting.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I got you guys on Zoom, but I couldn't, or not on Zoom, on YouTube, but
Yeah.
We can get in. All right.
So I don't know if anybody has any other questions with respect to our progress, but
So realistically, Judge Newcomb, y'all think y'all might be moved out of the building by the end of August then possibly? Is that right?
there's a good chance, I think, if everything goes well
Okay.
with inspections. And Chris, that punch list on the addition, that shouldn't be very extensive, should it?
no, because the addition only has 4 rooms in it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Imagine they'll say
Now-
3 weeks.
what's that, Chris?
I imagine they'll say 3 weeks.
Yeah. The problem is that's all predicated on our glass and door company actually showing up tomorrow and getting the 3 doors put in, what we're waiting on. So.
Yeah.
Which has been a challenge for the past 2 months.
On like 7 jobs.
Yeah.
Same guy.
I don't care about those other 6.
Oh, no, you're my most important client, but there are 6 other people. Yeah.
I will say that, it is affecting all of ours, I believe.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think glass would have a large lead time, but it does.
Yeah. On Henry County, with the person who was furnishing the glass for like the teller windows, it was a fairly thick glass, and when they were prepping them and cutting out because they had pass-throughs, the openings were chipping. So we had rejected the glass like I think 2 or 3 times. It took 3 or 4 times before they got the glass where it wasn't damaged, or from where they had, like, I guess somehow route the openings. I don't know, to cut the glass. So
We've done our fair share of rejecting glass.
Yeah. Of course, the person who put in all the casework for all the windows, they couldn't get finished up because they needed glass to be able to finish out after the glass was put in place. So caused some problems at the very end of the job.
Yeah, they've about worn out our window frames. They've had to replace the glass, put it in, take it out so much.
Yeah.
With Judge, I hope this time's the right fit. So
You and me both.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you guys may be looking at me from a different perspective if it's not, because I'm about to get tired of it.
I do have a question, and then I don't want to disrupt the agenda, but are there ways of scoring contractors?
We do have a way at the end of the job. Correct, Danny? Yeah.
yes, well, and we have a GC questionnaire that can be included in the bid,
Okay.
basically.
Good.
But we have to basically determine what that criteria and the percentage of grading will be, for the, how it's weighted on the bid. The majority of the bid will be lump sum cost. But there is ways that we can look at, basically best value criteria that would allow us to grade them on past performance, experience, things like that.
Concrete strength, meeting schedules, that kind of thing.
Paying subcontractors.
Yeah.
Um,
Lanes.
So that's a discussion that could be held prior to actually putting the bid notice out, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say that, that sometimes limits our participation in the bids. But, we definitely want to make sure we get the right quality contractor on the project. So.
Yeah.
Chris, did you have anything to add other than?
We're still in the holding pattern. Our specs are done. The drawings are done. As soon as we get okay from AOC on the front end, we'll revise them and be ready to go.
Okay.
Is my understanding from Jeff.
Sounds good. All right. Does anybody have anything else needs to be brought up? Okay, our next scheduled meeting's August 1st, or no,
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
Judge, that was,
yeah, that's today, sorry. September 5th. But I guess depending on how these bid documents go as to whether we'll have a need to meet, is that correct?
I think we just hold a meeting, go ahead and put it on the calendar. And then
Okay.
just, if there's any changes that come up that will require us to push that or anything, that we can make that decision then.
Okay. All right. So September 5th at 4:30, and Corky's provided a Zoom link, I think, for the next several meetings in case we need them.
I'll send that out to everybody in a calendar invite, just so if we decide from here on out to have a meeting that's Zoom, you'll have it in your calendar that way.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. And I apologize for not being able to get in.
That's all right. All right. Do you have a motion then to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Melissa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Duval. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thumbs up from Judge Rogers. All right. All right, motion is approved. We are adjourned. Have a good week.
Thank you.